guys, welcome to Beer and a Chat with
Elena! Oh.
Don't trip on my bed, please. Thank you. Yeah, you're a guest in the house. So.
Quick prologue. This is Elena. She's bi. This is Ashley. She's also bi. Elena's dating Dallas, and Ashley used to date Sam. While in those relationships, both Elena and I had coming out moments where we chose to tell our boyfriends we were a part of the LGBT community. It was scary, but worth it, and we learned a lot. This is our story.
Well, let's begin at the beginning.
Dallas and I are an interesting situation. We were very close in high school. So he was on the sidelines while I was figuring some stuff out in high school, so he kind of knew about all that, right? So when I came out to him, he was great. He didn't really react. He took me seriously, and that was kind of the last of it. After I came out to Dallas that first time, we didn't really talk about it after that. We talked about it that night, and then that was it. And then last year, it came up again. Basically, it was one of those things that I was trying really hard not to think about because I felt ashamed. And the more that you try to not think about something,
The more you think about
it. And so essentially this came bubbling up again, and we had another conversation about it where I kind of came out, and he was surprised at the fact that I had been holding this in, or that I had been like suppressing this and trying really hard not to talk about it. And it was all in my head that he didn't want to talk about it, or that I shouldn't talk about it anymore because I came out once and that's it. Now he knows I don't have to talk about it anymore. But I did need to talk about it, and that was actually the night before I ended up coming out to my whole family. Because I had this big, it was after watching Ingrid Nelson's coming out video, where I was just like, I have to.
I have to be me.
It's
like a compulsion. That's how coming out to my boyfriend was. Coming out to my boyfriend was like word vomit. I just couldn't keep it down.
It was so similar with Dallas.
What happened?
The second time, it was exactly that bubbling up where I was sitting downstairs on the couch, and he came down and sat beside me and immediately was like, are you okay? It was like something snapped.
It just overtook you.
Yeah.
It just overtook me.
Yeah. And he was like, are you all right? And I said, I need to talk to you. And so we went upstairs. I don't know why we went upstairs, but I was like, wait, I have to talk to you. I brought him upstairs, and I started having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because it was very overwhelming, and I was very confused because I was thinking, if I'm bi and I'm in love with Dallas, why do I have to think about this?
Because
why do I have to talk about it?
Because you're suppressing your identity.
Absolutely. I was like, I just have to tell you something. Like, just freaking out. I was like, I'm just really bi. Like, I think I'm just like really bi.
I'm so bi.
And he seemed so confused, and I remember
How is that an issue?
Well, exactly. Like, he didn't understand, like, why I was freaking out. He goes, and I kid you not, it was, like, the most endearing thing. He goes, well, he's like, do you still want to be with me?
Aww.
I was like, yeah, of course I do, of course. And he's like, then...
So I don't...
Then what? There was a point where we were both laughing, and I was still, like, I had tears running down my face, like, had just sobbed. Like, I'm sitting, like, crying, but we're both laughing so hard.
Is this ridiculous?
Because it's ridiculous, because it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with our relationship. It's not that I wanted any change at all. I just needed to say it.
Uh-huh.
And then that was kind of it. And then I said, I think I'm going to tell my parents. He said, yeah. And then the next day I came out to my parents, and he's been nothing but supportive, and I could talk about that all day, but...
There was a part of me that didn't know if I was ever going to come out to Sam. And there was a part of me that didn't ever want to come out to Sam. And thought that it would be okay if I lived my entire life not saying I was straight, but just lying by omission and not letting him know that I was
100%.
bi. But one night, we were just like hanging out, and I didn't plan on telling him that night at all. Like, not at all. No planage, no premeditation. Like, that was not a thing on my radar. If it was on my radar, my heart would have been beating all night. But all of a sudden, for some reason, just something overtook me. And I remember building it up so much. I was like, I have to tell you something. And he was like, what? And I was like, I don't want you to freak out. It doesn't change who I am. And I was like, please don't get mad. You shouldn't get mad. I mean, like, there's no reason to get mad or anything, but can you just also not get mad? And then I was like, you know how I am really supportive of LGBT people, and I talk a lot about it. Well, it's because I wouldn't use the word bi. I was I was afraid to use those labels yet, which is why I love labels so much now, because taking ownership of them was something that was so hard for me to do. So I wouldn't say bi, but I was like, but you know how I'm so supportive of LGBT people? It's because I feel like I could fall in love with anybody no matter what their gender is. Like, their
really
gender...
avoiding the labels.
Their gender isn't important to me.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that that's how I am, and that's why I talk about it, because I feel like a bit of a connection to the community. He's like, oh. Well, I thought you might have cheated on me. Even though I've never cheated on anyone in my life. But, like, I built it up to be this such big thing. It was like, I built this energy up, and then, oh, that's all it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the takeaways of these stories? Well, Elena and I used to think we were the only bi people in the world in hetero relationships. We are not. It's way more common than you think. Here are some other channels who also fit the bill as proof. Just because coming out to your partner is scary doesn't mean it will inevitably be super awkward and terrible. After all, we both had positive experiences. Coming out brought us closer to our partners. So if it feels right, consider going for it. And finally, you can totally be in a relationship with the opposite sex and still 100% be bi. Speaking of bi,
Okay, but we finally have a real lesbian on the show. Ashley Mardell, everybody.
But, like, you know I don't ID as a lesbian. Like, I
Are
told
you
you.
over 21? You get carded a lot? You have
As
your
a
lesbian
lesbian?
card at the lesbian bar?
Do you have a straight card?
No, I get to go to any bar I want.
The default bar, every bar is a straight bar.
Exactly.
Which is, do you know what privilege is? Cheers.
Cheers. I'm also excited.
Good. So now, in order to really have the beer in a chat, you have to chug, like, a third of your beer.
I didn't know that was one of the rules.
Yeah, actually, it's a ritual that I have. It really loosens me up for filming.
Is that why your cheeks are always so pink?
Yeah!